You're listening to IHC's podcast. Today's topic is Culture is Medicine.
Hi, folks. Welcome to IHC's podcast, Culture is Medicine. My name is Marissa, and I'm your host. I'm from the Canyoncito Band of Navajos, and I am the communications coordinator for the Indian Health Center, working in our development and communications department. I'm here today with Jose.
Hey, y'all.
Jose, would you like to introduce yourself, your name, pronouns, title, tribal affiliation?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. Good evening or good day. My name is Jose Morales. My pronouns are he, him. I am a senior at Gunn High School. And for my tribal affiliation, I am a Totonaca native, which that is a native from Veracruz, Mexico. And I come from the Santa Clara County, California Bay Area, specifically in Palo Alto.
Well, thank you for joining us today. So I heard that you're a traditional dancer. What style of dancing do you do, and how did you get involved with that?
So kind of like a history debrief, I started dancing traditional folclórico, specifically with like Oaxaqueño folclórico. So just the basic overall folclórico, and I started that like I want to say in elementary school. It was just a common tradition that my family does. But then I started going into traditional Mexica dancing. I think I started around my freshman year. I am a senior now, and so that was like 3-4 years ago. But the way I started is actually really funny. It was by my sister who wanted to be more connected with our roots and our ancestors. And the only way that I found that in the Bay Area is through a group or organization called Calpulli Tonalehqueh in San Jose, California. And I started off with just knowing a lot of people here from IHC. But even then, like outside of it, for example, like there's an organization called the Black Berets. I did their summer retreat for youth. And a lot of actually Mexica dancers came from, not specifically with Calpulli Tonalehqueh, but just in general. There was a lot of Mexica dancers with the Black Berets, but also in IHC. And they kind of just invited me over to Tonalehqueh. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I started, getting to know people. And just then I entered my palabra, or what we call our palabra, which is essentially kind of just saying, hey, I'm very much interested with this group, and I very much would love to be part of it. And that's kind of what I did. And ever since then, I just been dancing for 3-4 years with Tonalehqueh.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you know if Calpulli Tonalehqueh, like the name itself, if it means anything?
So Calpulli is essentially it's two words that combine to one, Cali, which is house, and then Puli is reunion, so it's the reunion of houses. Mm-hmm. So that's essentially when a lot of people throughout the Mexica Dancer culture will say Calpulli or grupo, which essentially just means like house reunions or just groups essentially. Pero Tonalehqueh is the warriors that accompany the sun. And so we're essentially the house of reunions that I don't even know how to describe it, but there's a lot to it. But it's warriors that accompany the sun. Tonalehqueh is warriors that accompany the sun. And that's essentially who I see myself as, a warrior who thrives with the energy of the sun and who clearly has a nice dark tint of brown that was created by the sun, Tonantiu.
I love that. I really do. That's awesome to hear. And then just for folks who may not know the difference between folclórico or Mexica, could you elaborate on those two terms?
Mm-hmm, yeah, of course. Folclórico is more of that. When you think of the word Mexican, a lot of people think, oh, folclórico dancing, where it's these beautiful colors, the nice dress, women and men dancing together in harmony, a lot of boots, a lot of guitar music. And that's the kind of the overall broad term when you think of Mexico. But when you get into like the roots, it kind of all stems from Mexica dancers. If you spell out Mexica, which I spell it as Mexica, but then also today, Mexican you just add really an end to the end of that. There's a lot of intertwining into it. So it kind of stems, if anything, from dancing overall. It's very cultural with the Mexica dancing, where we use drums, where we use teponaztlis, which are essentially just like little drums made out of wood rather than using a hide. And also we didn't use guitars. We didn't use any like instruments back in the day besides our huehuets, which is the traditional drum, or the teponaztlis are our flutes. But it's kind of just modern and urban kind of thing difference, you could say.
I like that. Well, thank you for sharing, especially for folks who might not know what the terms mean. So here at IHC, we believe that culture is medicine. So what does culture is medicine mean to you?
So that could actually, I mean, from the way I was taught, a lot of people will say culture is medicine, or for example, I think there's a popular term right now saying like la cultura cura, which essentially is the cultural cure. But the way I see that term is more of a reminder on how I'm carrying my ancestors' hopes and wishes and desires from way back. Because way back in time, I feel like our ancestors wanted our future generations to thrive. And I believe that I am one, but if not one of many of the representations of that wish and that desire that our ancestor had for us. But I see it not as a burden with carrying it on my shoulders. I see it as actually a form of guidance. In hard times like right now, senior year, we're about to go off to college and universities, 4 years, all that different can of worms. But I just remember myself that, with my culture and with my differences, it's not, a defect or nothing like that, a burden. It's actually a promise. It's empowerment. I see it as something positive. I see it as something great to have that to have my culture support me throughout this clearly like diverse, different society that we're in now. And I just find it super healing that I have that energy of my ancestors that came from my culture, that left for me specifically, and for many of us, just to kind of thrive and to guide and to learn from what they left for us, if that makes sense.
I really like the way that you worded that, because you're saying that the impact of you just existing is the wants, the wishes, the hopes that your ancestors had for you, and that you're trying to embody that hope. So that's beautiful. I'm all the bigger guy. You've been involved in many youth programs at IHC. Can you share a little bit about what your journey here has been like?
Oh my. I can definitely say I've been with IHC for more than, I want to say, 4 or 5 years. I know I haven't been there for like the longest time. And there's like, I would say, some OG, people who's been in it. Like the people that can come up on the top of my head is Chase Duran, Caden. But the reason why I'm saying these names is that the first ever program that I did with IHC was the youth workforce development. And that started, for me, it started a year before COVID happened. So I want to say that's 2018. Yeah, we were at Independence High School, and it was a pretty small group, but for the younger ones at the time, it was myself, Chase, and Caden. We were actually eighth graders, I'm pretty sure. And we were like these like little people, and then everyone else were like high schoolers, and we were like, oh, okay, so we clearly can, 8th graders over here. So there was only 3 of us, but even today I'm still part of that. But I started with the Indian, wait. Yeah, I started off with the workforce development with IHC, and from there I was just a participant, but with my energy, with my drawn passion to kind of be a leader. A lot of people say I have that leadership role. I don't see it, but a lot of people say like, oh, that's the one, So I think the next year, we hit COVID. Yeah. We hit COVID, and I think we did workforce on Zoom that time. And they asked me to be a peacekeeper. And for those who don't know what a peacekeeper is, it's essentially, you can think of it as a leader in training, to become like, running the whole workforce development program. And it's kind of just that booster of like being a leader. And so I did peacekeeper for 2019 workforce, but then right after that they came out with a new, it was like very new, it was to promote the COVID-19 vaccine. They asked me to be a COVID-19 youth ambassador, which is essentially a different program on the side, but it was essentially to elaborate, or not to elaborate, but just to spread awareness to getting the COVID vaccine. It was very important at the time, and it still is today. But at the time, it was very critical because there was the vaccine was very much new. They were still doing tests, but this was the first one that came out, and I and myself and some other youth who participated in the COVID-19 youth ambassador position, we essentially did. I remember we did an event that was part of a farmer's market. Kind of funny looking back at it, where we're in COVID and we're doing a farmer's market, but it was something that a lot of people needed to, get out there for. We were indoors for a year and a half. It was time for us to get back to society. And what we did was, again, we created an event. We had a farmer's market, or we participated with the farmer's market, and we had a booth where we were promoting services for the COVID-19 resources, and also having a traditional, I think it was a fancy shawl dancers that came and performed, and also some traditional drumming. That was one. Another was back to, I'm really trying to remember because I did do a lot of stuff for IHC, but I can't remember. There was a time where I didn't have to. I actually took the time out of my day because I just love the Indian Health Center, But there was like for the walk, run, what is it? The I don't know what it's called.
Run, walk, roll, skate.
There we go. I remember I participated in handing out shirts and resources. And honestly, like a lot of people are like, oh, I got to do that. But no, I actually like interacting with a lot of people. It's kind of fun, even though like it's a great example of getting that work experience with others, to kind of just dealing with the public, and also just how to have that, interaction. It's something that I will always cherish and learn from the Indian Health Center by every time they put on events like this. That was one. I'm thinking of, the youth media team. I participated in that, which essentially what we did was we made an Instagram account just dedicated for like the youth, on behalf of IHC. And we just did a lot of recording and then editing and posting about IHC's resources, but also participation in, for example, one thing that we did was the Mexica New Year collaboration. So I can shout out to Ari, IHC OG, actually one of them. She helped create a video for the Cali Native Night that the Indian Health Center and Calpulli Tonalehqueh collaborated with the Moek Maloney tribe, actually. And we kind of just did this whole entire, and we let the youth, I mean, including myself, I'm still a youth, but we kind of took our resources and our knowledge about technology and made this whole beautiful video. I think there was like 5 minutes, but it made me cry for sure. Shout out to Ari for editing everything and making it seem, with the music in the background and the visuals, it was amazing. I did the recording portion, but for the most part, and then we took pictures, we put that on the Instagram. It has kind of been inactive lately, only because we don't really have that many youth, but I would love to see it back up and running again. Now that Mexica New Year is coming back in March. And for people that don't know Mexica New Year, it's essentially the Mexica way. of starting the new year. For example, we have the Gregorian New Year, which is like in a couple of days. But for us Mexicas, we did not believe that the Gregorian New Year and Mexica calendar lined up together. There was some faults to it, we could say. There's definitely, I think we see it as the seasons. So spring, that's when Mexica New Year kind of starts, because it's the rebirth of plants and it growing back and kind of blossoming again. And we kind of see that as the new year. We don't want to see it as it being chilly cold for the new year. So we see as like a time where everything's starting again, starting anew. And it's honestly amazing. I would say, what else? What else did we do? But other than that, I just been really a peacekeeper with the workforce development. And that's kind of just the programs I did. I know I did like a whole spiel about that, but really trying to go back down memory lane. But there's just so much that I could say about Indian Health Center. And to summarize it, I love it. It given me a second chance on better, like self-improvement, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that Indian Health Center has made such an impact on your life, and I'm happy to hear that it was a positive experience. You feel like you've grown a little bit from being in our youth media workforce or youth workforce development and the youth media team. And then also that you were able to, intertwine your culture with, learning and just growing into being who you are today. So I'm happy that IHC has had a little impact on that, because you're so full of personality as it is. And then for those folks who are listening who might not know about Mexica New Year, it is going to be this year, March 15th through 17th at Emmer-Push Park here in San Jose, California. And for more information, you can visit www.aztecadancers.com.
Yeah, definitely check us out. We try our best to incorporate the indigenous culture of Mexica dancers, which other known, aka Aztec dancers, because we're not just Mexican. There's so much to being Mexican. There's actually so many indigenous cultures in Mexico, and we just want to express ourselves. And if you guys definitely want to check us out, there's the link, or not the link, the website. And also, it's amazing. I'm just gonna let y'all know right now. It's amazing.
It's a really fun experience. It's 3 days, actually, right? 3 days.
Yes, correct.
It's a 3-day event. It's beautiful. There's dancing like the whole entire time. I don't know how the dancers don't get tired. I was there outreaching as a part of Indian Health Center's booth, and it was just so busy. And then you learn a little bit about how to enter the circle. I saw folks walking backwards into the circle, and so I thought that was really cool. And then just kind of learning etiquette. What are some things as a dancer that for folks who are new and going to Mexica New Year or powwows, what are some things that you feel that they can incorporate?
I definitely, for that question, that's a big question. You know what? I love that question so much, because I feel like respect, that's something key to keep in mind when we enter spaces that are traditional, like powwows, but even Mexica New Year, because we're bringing our own culture into this. And it's so, for example, like, I don't want to throw shade, but there was a time, not at Mexica New Year, but at ceremonies, there's sometimes people will love to watch, because sometimes we do it in public places, and that's okay. You can watch, you can record, but some people will enter the circle without thinking that thinking it's okay. And it's not that, it's definitely not good. I will say that. It's because we're holding space and we're dancing, we're creating our medicine, we're honoring a specific thing. And for other people just to walk in, try to have a conversation with people while we're busy, it just disrupts the flow that we have going on. And I know it's not like this physical force field that will bury people, or not bury people, but just to block people off. But we do have our little fences, fences dedicated to plants.
Mm-hmm.
With that plant energy, we try our best. We try our best. But yes, definitely respect, keeping in mind that this is something cultural and not a game. This isn't presentations where it's give me money, but more if it's spreading awareness of our culture. And I guess like I think I've been in like situations where there's been like cultural appropriation, not just only my culture, but with like indigenous cultures and like Native American cultures too. Like I've seen like fake war bonnets happening just walking down the street in some certain times, and I was like, oh, that's no good, you know, like that's not good. But I just don't have that energy to be like, no, no. But it's definitely a form of respect. You know, we use our traditional, I guess, regalia, and we expect it to be respectful on other ends too. But also just that's one thing to keep in mind of being respectful. That's like if I could like bold it, underline it, highlight it, I would just say respecting our culture, and how to take in consideration this isn't a game. It's actually a lifestyle, but also I will say, I don't know how to phrase this, but I do this all the time. I'm gonna just say what I do. So if I go shopping, let's say in Mexico, they have a thing called a tianguis, or in the Nahuatl term, it's tianguistli, which is essentially like a lot of people think of it as a flea market, or just like a whole market happening on. And there's a handmade native person who's creating, for example, like this bracelet. Ooh, makeup tutorial. But
I love that.
there's people who hand make these stuff, and people will try to bargain and like make them lower their price. And I know in like powwows, people will vend like earrings, beaded earrings, and also necklaces and all that good stuff, you know, native handmade goods. Always respect their prices. I know people are like, oh, that's too high, I can find that on Etsy. Could we really? Like okay, this is one I love right now.
Beautiful.
Beaded earrings from a self-owned business woman. I forget her name right now. Tu Dualidad. I think that's her like Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Handmade beaded these. I offer to pay more, you know, and because this takes time, you know, this takes time, this takes energy, this takes so much, and it's just to honor those who actually take the time to make them and to sell them. And it's the one thing I feel like the most rewarding thing to feel is feeling appreciated. And when people go up to a stand, and it's obviously okay to be curious about the prices, but then people will just put them down and be like, you know what, I can find that on Etsy for $20. It's the form. I think that's just something to keep in mind, where this is hard work that people are putting their time into, for them to just be like, no, I can find that on eBay. But yeah, I think that's the only thing I could think of right now.
Okay. So we got respect, like the people, their spaces, the tradition, and then try not to intrude. It's okay to take photos for the most part. I would say if you're trying to take a photo with like an individual dancer, maybe ask their permission, especially because a lot of these dancers are youth, and you know, it just bothers me thinking that somebody's going to take a photo of our youth when they don't have their permission, or the parents' permission for that matter of fact. Then what are they using these images for? So that's that. And then also making sure that if you do go to an event where there is an indigenous person selling handmade goods, to respect their price, because you know they are taking their time. It's their craft. So I really like that you shared that importance of, you know, respecting that person for the work that they've done and honoring that.
Yeah.
For you, do you have any future dreams or aspirations, like school, dancing, life?
Well, for the most part, I think the big goal right now is to keep moving forward for my education, and also my career. Right now, I'm not doing anything for a job, but for a career that I really want to pursue and is nursing. I feel like a lot of medical field careers are being underappreciated, and also just low numbers. There's a lot of people who need that medical service, and I want to be there to help, because at the end of the day, again, medicine is life. Traditional medicine is life, but also medical medicine is life, because like we sometimes need our medicine to keep surviving. But it's also having those services and that backbone of support. I want to be that support, and that's just the career I'm like hopping towards as of right now. Like, to be a nurse, which one I have no clue, but I'm really leaning over to a pediatric nurse. A lot of people say I have a very calming energy, but also very like giddy, we could say, kind of high energies. And I think that's great with children. I know I had to grow up with a lot of kids and I had to take care of a lot of kids. So I just think I have that experience with children, and with the energy too. I think that would be a nice career path. I like working with kids. They're really dope. I get to learn about them, but also just to be their friend. If we could think about it, like the one thing kids hate is the doctors. I will say that. I know I hated the doctors when I was a kid. I still do. But I think if they know that there's people like who have my energy or who has that intention on helping others, I think it would be a great place for them. For dancing, I mean, I want to get back. I know there's like, I'm rusty on the knees. I'm really rusty on those knees. They need an update, put some oils in my gears. But I think sharpening my moves, stamina. I know I was doing really good at a certain time. And like you said, there's sometimes we dance for a ceremony. I think like some of us can dance for a while, usual ceremony, I think, is like a good 4 hours at least, depending on the ceremony. But there's ones that are like days. There's some ceremonies that are like, I think a week. I think one of them's a week, but that's in Mexico. And, I would like to get to that level where I can handle that. But then, y'all, some people don't believe in sleep. I love my bed. I love it. I love my bed. So I believe in sleep. I believe in sleep. Good. For real. But I want to experience that like intensity, we could say. It's not, again, I'm not saying this as like, oh, it's a level, like these are levels to it. I want to be on the highest level. I think it's more of like a staircase or even a ladder on like every step is self-improvement and also confidence too. Like I want to be confident when I dance. And I mean, let me tell you, I want to look like Beyonce. So I think like having that routine, that workout routine could really get me to that higher level. So I think, I don't know, maybe losing some weight could work, but who's saying that? But
who said that?
yeah, but I mean, some weight I wouldn't mind losing some weight though. But also then just being confident with my own body. I think as a two-spirit individual, a lot of people tend to think that we are self-conscious about ourselves, but in reality, if anything, we are like on top of it when it comes to confidence. And that's the overall broad thing. But I don't think I'm confident with my body, but I want to be, I want to, and that's a start. So I think that's like a goal that I'm really leaning towards to, or hoping to get to eventually. It doesn't have to be today. Nothing's going to happen overnight. Mm-hmm. But it will with hard work and with intention, we will get there.
I can really see like your vision and like you're saying becoming a nurse, and then getting in tune with your dancing for you. Like you said, you're not aspiring to be on like Dancing with the Stars. Like that'd be cool, but that's not the goal. The goal is to be comfortable in your own skin and to be comfortable enough to dance through like the fullest when it comes to ceremony, whether it's the 4-hour ceremony or maybe one day the week. We'll see. Who knows? We don't know. But do you have any advice for Native youth in our community, seeing as this episode will air after the new year? So It's 2024. Do you have any advice for the Native youth in our community?
Oh my. Oh, I have so many. No, just kidding. But I will start with one, and I think it's very key. Love yourself, because I will rephrase this. Be confident. Do not listen to anyone else. I'm speaking this from experience. Love your skin color. There's nothing wrong with being dark. There's nothing wrong with being brown. There's nothing wrong with being tan, because we, as indigenous people, tend to have this ideology that if we're not looked this certain way, that's not us. That's not how we're supposed to be, and what we're doing is wrong. And we need to find a makeup tutorial to fix that up. But it's not. For the longest time, I've been the darkest in my family, all of my family. And it's not, or at least as a kid, I would see that as being wrong because everyone else in my family was lighter and I didn't think I fit in. And people would make fun of me for that as a kid too. And I think that in itself is already messed up, that other people are talking down on me, on my skin colors. But at the end of the day, what could I do? What could I do about that? And I really could not do anything besides loving my dark skin. And the way I remember it is my skin reminds me of our Mother Earth. And I know my Mother Earth is beautiful. She gave me life, and that's more than I can already beg for. And being brown is actually a representation of my ancestors, because the Totonaca community, they're relatively like darker skinned, and that's beautiful. Like, imagine a community where everyone looks beautiful. I'm not saying everyone here looks amazing or not, but I'm saying that I feel like I belong. I feel like I belong, and especially in this diverse community today, there's times where I don't feel like I belong, even in my own school. And that's like, that's a time when I need to remind myself that my skin is my power. My skin comes from many generations of love, tradition, and power. So I would say love yourself before putting your energy in anything else, because we all need to focus on ourselves before we put anything or exert our energy in anything else. That's one thing. To respect one another, no matter how different we are, because we don't know what anyone else is going through. They could be actually going through worse than what we're going through. And also just kind of like to jump onto that, but be humble, That's kind of how I stayed in contact with myself, where I'm blessed. Honestly, I'm blessed. I have a roof over my head. I have a wonderful community, but I know there's a lot of people out there that don't have that. And I don't want to be out there like, oh, I got my Balenciagas, I got my Gucci belt on. But it's more that I have a family, and I'm proud and happy to be part of that family. Because at the end of the day, nothing is promised. Tomorrow, everything could change. So reminding myself in the moment that what I have is powerful, what I have is here together, means so much.
Yeah, well, I like that. That's the theme that you're saying is, respect for the Mexica thing, it's like to respect others. And then for the advice for folks is to respect yourself, to love yourself as you are, regardless of whatever you think that might be flaws on your body, are appreciated by your ancestors, because that's part of the package,
Yeah.
For you, you're saying that your skin color was an issue for you when you were younger, because was it that you just didn't really accept it, or people kind of made fun, anything like that?
It was actually both of those, to be honest. A lot of people would love to turn the cheek when it comes to people that don't look like them.
Mm-hmm.
and people would again like make fun of me for it, and that's really hurtful for an elementary schooler that really just wanted to connect with other people, other students, other classmates, but then them just turn around and just say like, no, we don't have to talk to him. And kind of left me in the dark. And I kind of had to make my own light. I had to shine my own light bulb. And throughout the time, I started to meet other beautiful brown indigenous people. And I didn't feel the need to have to explain myself anymore, you know? I just felt like I belonged at the end of the day. And that's all I could really ask for.
Yeah, that's powerful. Well, thank you. Is there any other advice that you want to give to the Native youth or to folks starting this new year, this Gregorian New Year?
That's really it, if I'm being honest. Drink water, be hydrated. Look, water is key. Water is key. And especially if you're thinking of like starting your new health journey with those new year, new me, water, because you will sometimes dehydrate yourself, but you just gotta drink that water and you should be good for that. Like water.
I love that. So we have appreciate yourself, hydrate, and then love yourself before you can do anything else. All right. And folks, don't forget that Mexica New Year is coming up this year. It's March 15th through 17th at Emma-Prish Park here in San Jose, California. And for more information, you can visit www.aztecadancers.com. Well, thank you again so much, Jose.